Welcome to the Jamaica Selectboard regular meeting of June 9th. It is 7:01 p.m. I will first item on the agenda is to call for any late additions to the agenda. Are there any on the board? No. Okay, I'm going to say something in public comment, but it's not really an agenda item. All right, the next item of business is the review and approval of the minutes from the May 27 regular meeting. So I will make a motion that we approve the minutes from the May 27 regular meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Kate. Any comments? Kate? Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't. It says that Christine was absent, but she was just late for a few minutes, so she's.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe join the meeting.
Oh, okay. I didn't put her. I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Great. Thank you. Well. Should I get credit? Otherwise, we got her pay. Actually, no, we did not. That's not how it works. One little.
Yeah.
All $9, right? Exactly. All right. We are joined by folks from V-Trans to give a report and update on the Depot Street bridge to the state park. And Greg, I'm going to hand it over to you. Is that okay?
That is absolutely fine. And I guess I'm going to introduce Megan. I recognize your name, Megan, but I see different people on these meetings all the time. But I will let you run with this. I will give you, I'm imagining that I'll give you, let me give you control of the screen so you can share yours.
Perfect. And then I'm also going to ask, are there any folks in like a waiting room or something? Because I am expecting 2 others to join.
As of now, there's nobody in the waiting room.
Okay, that's not a problem. I'm totally able to run with it. I just wanted to check before I got started.
Okay, we can postpone, not postpone, but I mean, we can switch it down lower in the agenda if you'd like.
Right, do after transfer state. Do you want to do that?
I mean, I'm totally fine going through. By the time I get through my half the slides, folks might be joining. If not, I can run with the other slides and answer questions if that's what you prefer.
It's up to you if we get halfway through a presentation and.
Why don't we let's do the transfer. Yeah.
Let's push you down until your other people get.
Okay, so while we're waiting, we're gonna we'll move next to the transfer station hauling bids. And is that Kate or Greg who's kind of
Both.
okay.
I'll interject, but I think Kate's got more of this.
Okay, so the only bid that we got really was, that's not true. We got bids from Casella and also Wyndham Solid Waste for some of the items. And I spoke with Dave Allen from Casella this morning, and it's okay with them if we decide to do some with Casella and some with Wyndham Solid Waste. So the bids were for construction and demo. The haul charge when switched out would be $288 as Casella. The tip fee disposal rate for waste in the container would be $225 a ton. And the unit charge, that's mattresses, that's separate. Then mixed solid waste, municipal solid waste haul charge would be $288, and the disposal fee for trash in the container $138 per ton. The rental charge for the receiver box, compactor box $375 a month. And the compost collection for 6 32-gallon carts emptied weekly would be $35 each, which is $210 a month, which is times 52. Per week. Which times 52 weeks would be $910 a month, which is, anyway. And recycling, the haul charge when switching the containers would be $288. Tip fee processing charge $188 a ton. And that's a variable rate that changes monthly based on the resale value of the recyclables. So Wyndham Solid Waste, that was all Casella. And Wyndham Solid Waste, Casella was bidding $50 per mattress. Wyndham Solid Waste was bidding $45 per mattress, but they have to be dry, and that may be a problem. More on that in a minute. The compostable waste, which would be taken to Wyndham Solid Waste in Brattleboro, would be $3.90 a month or $90.50 per week. And they would also, they're bidding for mixed paper and cardboard, $60 a ton. So if you try to put it into apples, Casella would be charging $50 per mattress. Wyndham Solid Waste would charge $45, but they'd have to be dry. I spoke with Ernie. There's no place right now where we could store them to make them dry. So we get probably an average of 3 to 4 a week, which surprised me right now. Though he did mention that if we were to remove the roof over the C&D container, we could possibly repurpose that and cover whatever mattresses we got somewhere. Just a thought.
Right.
So, yeah, and so Casella was okay with just hauling the bottles and cans, the glass and plastic, and not the paper if we wanted to go with Wyndham Solid Waste for that. And Casella would charge $288 to haul down.
So who would haul the mattresses for Wyndham Solid Waste? Because it seems like they don't do any hauling.
Yeah, I
so
don't
to
think they
speak.
would haul. Yeah, so that to me didn't seem like it was really practical for $5 per
Right,
mattress.
right.
They
We would have to figure out how to get the mattresses down there.
And also they'd have to be dry, which, I mean, maybe
Okay.
So
eventually.
when they get hauled out, they go in the demo, right?
Yeah, right now they're going to, yeah.
So is that, do they charge us by the square foot or the weight in that demo?
The weight.
The weight.
Ton.
The certain mattresses,
That's what
1,000
Vernon
pounds.
was, yeah, he was pointing out that.
I told you that one got dropped off outside the gate and have the payloader come up and chain it and bring it in.
But even if we had a storage facility to keep them dry, chances are somebody could bring one in wet if they left it outside for a couple days and then they brought it in wet, then what would we do? That would be my concern.
I mean, we
I
can
don't
tell
think we got that.
people we only accept dry mattresses.
Charge more.
Charge more.
Super heavy though.
Yeah,
Three or
they're
four
heavy
of those
dry.
flat.
Just changing the sheets is really difficult. They're really heavy these days. So,
Wow.
my feeling is that we would like to send as much as we can to Wyndham Solid Waste. I think we should do the paper with them.
And the composting
And the compost.
rate
That's,
is less. I mean,
Yes.
we make more or cost less
yeah,
to compost
Yeah.
at Wyndham Solid Waste.
yes,
And then we have the added bonus of they're making compost, which they're profiting on.
right,
The haul rates are equal because we're gonna have to sell it haul
right.
no matter what.
So is there sort of a Chinese menu you recommend? So these from this side, these from this side?
Recycling would go with Wyndham Solid Waste.
Okay.
And paper also.
Composting with Wyndham Solid Waste.
It's not what I just said.
You
Composting.
said that.
Oh, sorry, composting with Wyndham Solid Waste and paper.
With Casella?
Well,
No, we'll take one of them.
Yeah.
So,
Will you put a
Solid
little,
waste is
I'm gonna
better.
ask you to put a little initial by each one, because now you're gonna make you'll make a resolution.
Okay, so that would be Wyndham Solid Waste,
paper and recycles and compost.
so.
Hold on.
Charge you
15 to 22 per mattress. We're only charging the residents $15 to $22 to dispose.
Per
I thought it was 3 different prices depending
There
on
are
size.
15 to 22.
But nothing
Well,
close to
we're paying 50.
50.
Yeah, we could certainly
We
raise
will
that.
Yeah, I think,
Good
the
point.
next meeting, transfer station.
Like to mess up your sign and do that.
Right.
Put some white tape over it and push everything.
Well, we should be
I think that's the
evaluating the
next
fees.
That's on the next meeting.
On regular
Yeah.
basis anyways, whether it's this or not.
Okay, and paper and compost. Alright. So,
Okay, I'm gonna make a
further
resolution.
discussion?
Well, you need to make a resolution.
No, I don't know how to do that.
Okay, so, I will make a motion that we select, for, the company Casella to,
Do our hauling of construction and demo, our municipal solid waste, and our recycling that is not paper and cardboard, the mixed things.
okay, and, also, enter into a separate contract with Wyndham Solid Waste for,
Composting and paper. And the mattresses we have to.
We'll continue to put those
I
into the
think-
demo.
right, well, continue in demo,
Yeah.
until such time as this board takes a different action.
Yeah.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Any further discussion?
I'd like to sell it, take it all. Just my opinion,
Because,
I just,
Easier.
it'd be less complicated. They'll take the mattresses, whatever, I know.
Okay.
Well, they can still-
That's, we're
I
sticking with that.
know.
so Sarah, does that complicate your paperwork or your accounting?
Casella drives me insane anyways, cause they bill two separate accounts, so it's not gonna be more complicated.
What are the two separate accounts?
I don't know about it.
Oh.
I suppose we can talk to them separately, but it doesn't sound like it's gonna add,
Right.
and it could save us some money in an area where we're kind of needing.
Cause we put Mary puts each line item in separately, like in a
Right.
different invoice, so it's not like we're not picking the bill apart anyway, so
Right.
it would just be a separate bill.
Okay.
I don't think it would be too complicated.
I mean, my.
I might change my mind,
Money
but-
if we can,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a problem. We need to save money.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, how are we with V-Trans? Do we have our,
They have reported they are all in the waiting room, waiting to be admitted.
That's interesting, I see nobody, actually, it's funny, because it's, I do, okay, sorry, they're not popping up, I was saying they're in the waiting room, but here we go.
Oh, hang on again.
Yep,
We have to.
yeah, right, exactly.
my bad, they weren't popping up on my
This is an
top of the
exclusive.
screen saying that they're waiting, but there they are.
All right.
So who should I make share this, able to share this?
If you can make it for me to share, then I can get the presentation up. Let's see. Do I need to request it or?
No, well, you can, but I'm just gonna make you the co-host.
Okay.
That's the easiest way that I'm doing to me, not the way to set this.
All right. Good evening, folks. We are here to discuss the Jamaica TH19 Bridge 32 over the West River. This is an updated presentation from the last meeting we had several weeks ago to address a few additional items. The presentation, we're going to go through introductions, purpose of meeting, the location of the project, the updates to the alternatives, which is the main purpose of this meeting, and then recommended alternatives and schedule. Gary LaRoche is from V-Trans. He's the V-Trans project manager. Sean James is the Whale Tanner project manager, and I'm Megan Ohms, the Whale Tanner senior structural engineer. So the purpose of this meeting, as I mentioned, is to provide an update of the project alternatives. Last time we were here, we addressed several of the alternatives that we had looked at and had been requested to add an alternative, so we're going to go through that. We're also going to discuss updated recommended alternative as a result of incorporating that additional alternative. And then we're going to provide an opportunity to ask questions and voice concerns. Just a recap, this is the Depot Street Bridge over West River. It's adjacent to Jamaica State Park and Ball Mountain Lake. I think we're fairly familiar where this is. So just as a summary so that everybody's familiar, Alternative 5 was replace the bridge with a new steel girder bridge. It's going to have a temporary offline bridge, so traffic will continue on this temporary bridge. It requires a crane and equipment on the west side to set steel, and this would require and have an HL93 design vehicle, which is your typical highway design vehicle. And that incorporates a lot of the vehicle loading that was of concern for this project, including, campers and construction equipment. Alternative 6 was to replace the bridge with the new truss. As you can see off to the right, the truss was not, or even to the picture on the bottom, it wasn't a closed style truss. It wasn't a through truss, how we call them. So this also would have a temporary bridge offline, so traffic would continue on the temporary bridge. There would be required temporary supports on the west side to launch the bridge across, and requires quite a large laydown area to assemble these trusses and then to also launch them. Similar to Alternative 5, this has the HL93 design vehicle, so it would incorporate all those similar loadings for the campers and the construction equipment. This Alternative 7 is the new alternative that we went back and took a look at as requested by you folks. So it's replacing the bridge with a new through truss, and you can see the picture here. It's quite a different structure as the picture here for Alternative 6. It's much similar in style. It's not identical, but it is a similar style truss to the existing. It's a through truss, and it's a much taller structure. It would meet all the design requirements for the construction vehicles to go through the HL93 design vehicle. Similar to the other two alternatives, there would be a temporary bridge offline, so vehicles would continue on the temporary bridge. There wouldn't be a traffic issue. It requires temporary supports on the west side to launch. It also requires a large laydown area to assemble the trusses, similar to Alternative 6, the other truss alternative. And there's large erection and maintenance costs for this structure. So that's one big difference to point out here, is just the construction cost difference and the maintenance cost difference because of the style of the bridge, the size of the members. It's just a much more costly in those manners. There was also another update that happened between when we met last and today. So we got additional geotechnical information from additional research or investigations that had been done, and the geotechnical information and discussions that happened indicated deep foundations are recommended. When we first met with you guys a couple weeks ago, all of our cost information was based on shallow foundations, and really what that means is it was a less expensive foundation type. Deep foundations provide a lot of benefits. They're much more resilient. They're much, which means that in flood situations, they tend to perform better. There's a lot of benefits to deep foundations. The recommendation for deep foundations was based on the soil types that were found, where ledge was found, various factors there. So this information changed costs associated with Alternative 5 and Alternative 6 that we previously presented. It also obviously was taken into account for Alternative 7 for the amount of the cost moving forward. As you can see here, one of the big differences is that integral abutments is recommended for Alternative 5. That's a minimum number of piles. Piles is what that deep foundation is. Alternative 6 and 7 would be on a standard pile abutment, and that requires a significant more number of piles than an integral abutment foundation would require. So the difference between 6 and 7 is a lot more piles than Alternative 5. So that was taken into account. So we have an updated summary of costs for all three alternatives, and I want to point out that the bridge cost did change for all three, or for the two previously presented, and then we have the new cost. And you can see Alternative 5 still is the most cost efficient structure of all three options. Alternative 7 is the least cost efficient option of all of the alternatives presented here. You'll see that trickle down various costs have changed based on some of the information I shared with you. And the total project cost, you can see it's a difference of almost $9 million, $8,888,000 versus 10,000 and change versus almost $10,500 million, sorry. So there's quite a difference there in the project cost, which we somewhat anticipated, but this kind of shows the magnitude of what that cost difference really would be.
Am I reading the chart right?
So-
Can I ask you one quick question, just cuts through the chase a little bit?
Sure.
Is the town share on alternative 5 is the most expensive, is the highest? So there's an inverse relationship.
The town share, where am I seeing? Hold on.
At the very bottom box, the bottom box in bold,
So the bottom box town.
that goes to the town share. So obviously, we're gonna be
Yeah, I
very
see that.
concerned how much money we have to pony up. So I would have thought logically that the town share would increase with the total cost increasing, but instead there seems to be an inverse relationship. Not by much, but by something. So I'm curious about that. I think by like 10,000 or something.
I believe that, so I'll interrupt and John can join in the conversation, but I believe the reason for that is because the trusses are actually designed by the fabricator of the truss and not Hoyle Tanner. Is that correct, Sean?
Yeah, that is correct, Gary. Yep.
So therefore the engineering cost of designing that truss is included in the cost of that truss and not the PE cost. So that's why you're getting, that's why there's an inverse relationship there.
Right, so they're different dollars. So at least from a purely financial perspective, according to the town, we are at best in favor of 6 or 7, and at worst we disfavor alternative 5 from a purely financial.
I would jump in real quick and say something. The plus future maintenance is not something I would take lightly because future maintenance cost on trusses can add up fairly quickly. Maintenance cost on trusses is significantly higher than maintenance cost on a steel integral abutment bridge. Integral abutment bridges do not have as much maintenance cost specifically, which is why they're such a preferred structure type, that they are literally designed in a way to minimize maintenance, and truss bridges are the exact, opposite of that in a way, where there's a significant amount of painting and cleaning and inspecting of all,
Right.
all of the connections have to be inspected. And when you look at those pictures, there's tons of connections, and then those connections need to be maintained and cleaned. And
Right.
it is a significant effort.
And that's alternative 6.
6 and 7. So it would apply to both truss alternatives.
But I thought, okay. Does 6 have a smaller burden because of the nature of the design of the truss?
Yes. I would say it's likely smaller. But alternative 5 is by far the least maintenance.
So the maintenance costs aren't in this document. Does it make sense for you to continue? We're probably gonna start jumping in to ask questions that might be answered in the remaining.
Sure. Yeah, let's continue, and then we can jump back to the slide and go through costs more, but I know Gary's going to jump into some cost explanations too, and that might help answer a lot of questions.
Well, just really quickly, so at the bottom of the chart where it says annualized costs, is that the maintenance cost, or we're going to see maintenance cost estimates somewhere else?
No, there aren't really maintenance costs because that's such a hard thing to estimate. You can throw a number at it, but maintenance cost is something that's very individualized depending on so many factors.
So for purposes of tonight's discussion, you're just going to tell us there's more or less, you're not going to give us an order of magnitude.
Correct. And I can tell you that, alternative 7 is the highest, alternative 6 is the middle of the road maintenance, and alternative 5 is by far the lowest maintenance. And that's essentially
Yeah,
the guidance.
I think that to kind of give a order of magnitude, perhaps, Megan, that, like the painting system, or
Right.
like that's generally one of the biggest maintenance items that comes up throughout the life cycle of a truss structure. So addressing, the paint system, I don't know what, like for instance, if it was painted, it would be like a 15-year paint system
Right.
before it starts deteriorating. And or galvanization, I believe, has like a 30-year system, which is what I believe we had shown in the image would be a galvanized
Right.
structure.
Right.
And then so you would have to address that coating system around those periods midlife, where if it was alternative 5, a girder bridge, generally, if you're high enough above the water, and I don't know if we are here or not, based on our criteria to use weathering steel, that bridge would not require any coating whatsoever, because you get that natural patina
Right.
that comes on the girders that don't require that maintenance at all.
All right. Karen, you saying you just want to take
Can
a
we see
picture
the-
of the screen?
Can we see the pictures of each of the 3 bridges again, now that we've seen the?
Let's finish the presentation.
That's okay.
That's okay.
And plus, we're gonna be able to post the
We can
images,
share
right?
for sure
Okay.
this whole
Okay.
presentation, yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
So presented this slide similar to last time, from the bridge rehabilitation, was an 80-15-5 town share for the engineering and right of way, and 0% for construction. And then for the bridge replacement, we'll have to do a amended finance and maintenance agreement to essentially just define what the split is, for the replacement, and it'd be going to an 80% federal, 10% state, 10% town for engineering and right of way, and it will continue to be 0% for construction. And the estimates that we provide today are, of course, today's prices and not the future projected prices of what the project costs are.
Oh, 153,000.
So to give you an idea, similar to last time, the construction schedule, we were wrapping up our scoping report back in April. Our preliminary plans we're expecting fall or late this year. Final plans, fall of 26, and contract plans in fall of 27. And due to our fiscally constrained budget right now, we don't have an exact date for construction yet, but as we get closer, we'll understand more if that can occur sooner or later. But more to come in the future on that. So next slide, please. So at our previous presentation, the town is very interested in understanding what the projected cost would be in the coming years. So what I did is I broke up what the town's overall share of the project, from what's already been expended to what's going to be expended over the next 3 years or next several years. So I broke out in the first column what we had spent for bridge rehabilitation, and then the estimated value that the town has expended to date. And then the bridge replacement, I broke it out alternative 5, 6, and 7. So the town's share moving into either one of these alternatives in the future is, we have 102,000 to 93,000 left to expend under this new scope for the town. And then over the next 3 years, based on the preliminary plans, final plans, contract plan, projected dates, we expect 50% of the engineering to occur in 25 to 26, final plans 30%, and up to contract plans the remaining 20% going into 28. So you have your some projected spending profiles for the coming years that the town could budget for. Next slide, please. So the, as similar last time, as we described, that the agency recommends the least costly or alternative that will cause the least maintenance, most efficient alternative, and is to be stewards of the taxpayer. We recommend alternative 5 to replace the existing bridge with a girder bridge, while maintaining traffic on a temporary bridge that's adjacent to the existing during construction. And now we can move into some questions.
Now is there a slide that shows the 3 images side by side, or can you flash the 3 images? 5, 6,
Yeah,
7?
I can go through all 3. So this is alternative 7, the through truss, the newer alternative, and then the original truss alternative, and the girder bridge.
So you don't have an image, a projected.
No,
It's your basic bridge, it's your concrete deck.
correct.
With nothing on the side.
Nothing.
Kind of like.
It would all be it would be under the concrete deck. It would just be under the concrete deck.
It would look like the bridge next to the fire department? Is that what it would look like?
Yeah.
But that, would there be sidewalks?
There's no sidewalk.
There's no sidewalk.
It's a 2-lane bridge though, so we could strike it
Oh,
down
right.
to
It's
single
2
lanes
lanes.
so that
It's
there's
2
no
lanes.
sidewalk on both
Right.
sides.
Right.
Yeah.
With a concrete rail kind of thing, what's the rail?
I'm not sure, is that a concrete rail or a metal?
Steel.
We had originally thought a steel railing, but that could potentially be something up for discussion.
Steel be something that doesn't have to be painted, it would just have a patina, is that?
It would be galvanized, correct?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't require painting.
So,
Do we need to choose?
so I was just at one regional commission
Yeah.
meeting, and V-Trans Abe was there, and I don't know how to go about this, but the amount of bridges that V-Trans is able to do compared to pre-COVID now, if they're suggesting the most inexpensive, easiest bridge to do, from what I heard this afternoon, not just from Abe, but, maybe that might be a good idea. I don't know if we're making a
You
decision.
mean more likely to be accomplished?
I don't know. I just
Okay.
know that it's, there's not as many being built as, I'm sure V-Trans could answer this better than me, but we'll be lucky to get it done.
If
In
the
3 years.
more complex, the harder it is.
Well, I think it would be just easier to do it,
Okay,
and less maintenance, as much as I like the fancier looking ones, but.
right. It's a little just personally, I'm struggling a little without having a genuine order of magnitude of the annual cost. It's just hard to even deliberate, because, I don't even have an order of magnitude, like we're talking 50, are we talking
tens of thousands
100?
or
Are we
100,000?
talking 250 now,
Yeah.
without even an order of magnitude, we're missing an absolutely material component of the analysis. So, obviously, we can do some research, we have some resources in town of folks who own engineering companies and who work for municipalities and might be able to get me, something. So I did hear a little bit of, color, from you guys. So I just need to just confirm, there's just you're not able to provide to us any kind of numbers to this. We need to do our own research. Have I said that correctly in terms of understanding the order of magnitude of annual maintenance costs?
I don't have that information right now. Sean, do you have a better feel for what that would be?
Can I ask, do you mean on the other two bridges or the most?
On the other two, on 6
Oh,
and 7.
okay.
Yeah.
Bear in mind that we have never painted that bridge as long as
Right.
I've been walking across it.
Never, right?
It needs it bad.
Right, well, we've just never done it. Right, because we're not obligated to from a regulatory perspective. It's
And I guess too, I mean, not to interject, I know there's a question on the table already, but we have another truss bridge that's on Route 100 that's in the town of Jamaica. That was installed, I don't remember how many years ago,
Governor Douglas.
20 years ago. So, I mean, there must be some history, and I know you past, it's like the stock market, past performance isn't an indication of future. But can we get some cost records of some current bridges, just as some reference, if we can't predict what they might be? Like, just to add to the question that's on the table.
Yeah, just I can jump in a little on that. So yes, we didn't have the information tonight, but we can provide some. It is quite a bit higher. We'll get that information to you, but I guess, you know, I'd say like on your existing bridge, you haven't repainted it, but you have had to downpost it due to significant, you know, deterioration in the lower parts of it. So there's a couple ways to deal with it. You don't have the cost, or you just reduce the cost until you have to, eventually close it. So, the bridge that's shown, the preferred alternative would be a metallized, which is a long-term durable coating. There's no joints at the end, which this one will have joints on it. So we can come up with something. I think even with the maintenance, though, the overall recommendation doesn't change. It's still a significant cost difference, and it's up to V-Trans how they want to handle it. But we could, if that's a decision point for you that on this, we'll certainly get you the information.
Yeah, definitely. Understanding the order of magnitude, and are we talking about a maintenance hit that we're getting every 15 years, every 20 years, every year? Those are material elements to the decision. There's strong desire to have, an aesthetic that is closer to 6 or 7. It does sound like 7 might unfortunately be a little out of our reach. But I can't say that because I don't have the information from which one would derive that conclusion. And to be frank, the initial cost is higher to us for Bridge 5. So, I really, not substantially, but these costs move around and it could end up being more. So I need some ammunition to guide the conversation on those missing points.
Yeah, no, completely understood. And, I think a couple pieces there. So, generally with a bridge like this, you should be washing it every year to get the salt off. You're going to need to then replace the joints about every 20 years. You're going to need to repaint it partially, probably about every 20 years. When you get to about 40 years, you're looking at a new deck. Just to give you an idea, we'll run through all this. About 60 years in, you're repainting the whole thing. So what becomes hard, and I know we'll get your numbers, but again, like, what does it cost to paint this bridge 60 years from now?
Understood, and we would have to be making capital contributions we'd have a bridge fund, like we have with all of our other, municipal, budget items that require episodic capital to be spent. We make investments every year so that we're not, facing something in year 15 that we're like, oh, forgot about that. And we understand that every 5 years or so, every fund gets looked at, and we examine whether the target that we're working towards is actually the correct target, or do we need to adjust our annual contribution to that fund. So I don't really see this any different from anything else. It's just, I want to have an understanding of exactly, certainly in years 1 through 5, I think we could be reasonably confident, quite confident the next 5 years, we'd be reasonably confident. Maybe after that, we're not so sure. But we could have an idea of what the impact on our annual budget is for the maintenance. And then we could talk to the constituents and understand, we can get a sense of how people feel about that.
Yeah, understood. And so the town has a bridge maintenance fund. Would you be able to share what the spending?
We would have to do that for this one. We haven't had to, but we have, I'm just saying, this is nothing new in the sense of understanding that we're gonna have capital needs. We have our lister here who lives the contributions every year to our fund to support, townwide reappraisal, which is, how much is that gonna cost us? Millions.
140,000.
Oh, 140,000, yields millions. So, there are a number of funds that we have established that we treat this way. We anticipate as best we can in year 1 what we're gonna need in year 10, and we reevaluate it episodically so that we know that if the target is moved, we have to change our annual budget contribution.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood. So your general bridge maintenance is handled through the highway department generally?
What little there has been, yes. There really hasn't been. This would give us an opportunity to tighten up how the town manages this asset. Aesthetics are always important, but this is a bridge that serves such a crucial asset to the town, and it really is integral to the character. So I think we do need to do as complete due diligence financially as possible so that we're making a truly informed decision when the town has spoken in terms of its preference. So I think that's helpful.
Yeah. No, understood. That's very helpful. I would say too, cost is a big part of this. The town is fortunate that 100% of the construction cost is being borne by the state and the Fed. So I mean, that's about at least $6 million. So that's another piece in there that I think, just people need to be aware of.
I lose sight of Andy's observation, so I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. What would you say is the impact, if any, of our choosing 6 or 7 over 5 in terms of the likelihood of project completion?
And just let me say, Abe didn't say what she just said. He just was explaining some things about how V-Trans works and how we are backed up on bridge construction and that kind of thing.
Right, and I'm being a nervous Nelly, wanting to see, do I need to read into the tea leaves there or not?
I think
So,
that's a Gary question.
I can try to speak to that. So, I discussed this subject with our program manager, and that, if the town elected to go with a more expensive structure, that, the state would have to prioritize it accordingly and where it fit in the budget. So leading up to the construction of this, whatever the proposed bridge is, whether it's a more the recommended or the more expensive bridge, if a temporary bridge had to be put in beforehand until such time that the new bridge could be constructed, under a separate contract, if for some reason the original deteriorated before funds were available, we may have to put a temporary out there before we could go through with the full replacement. And once the temporary is there, then that could potentially push the construction out a little bit further of the new bridge, in the event that it's of course more expensive and where it fits in the budget.
But there's a temporary bridge regardless of which one we
There
choose.
is.
Yeah.
There is.
Okay.
So just kind of as an example, like say if hypothetical, if later this year we have a bridge inspection scheduled, and if that bridge inspection was not favorable, or if we thought that we would need to address this before deterioration becomes to a point where folks couldn't get across, then we would have to prioritize a temporary bridge be installed, and then be able to justify that to be done ahead of the permanent replacement project. So generally to justify that installation or that separate contract, that bridge would have to be there for a certain number of years before you can cost benefit analysis, sort of logic of, okay, well, we've had it there long enough, it justifies it being there.
Right.
So it's all about funding and prioritizing what's the most critical infrastructure first.
I mean, Jessica raised a point about that's a little confusing, but I think the other way to look at it would be if we all said, let's say the temporary bed, again hypothetically, had to go in this coming spring, we're now 5 years ahead of our plan for design and everything else, so that temporary bridge has to sit there for 5 years.
But that has nothing to do with whether we choose 5, 6, or 7.
No, but
Right, okay.
it adds cost to the project because the bridge is in there for 5 years instead of 1 year, or 2 years, or whatever it is.
I guess, so is that?
Sorry, I don't want to cause any more confusion, but I just, it's all about, where the project would fit within the fiscally constrained budget that we're dealing with. And to speak to project cost over the past 5 years, since COVID, project costs have easily gone up 50% or more, in the past 5 years.
I'm missing something, is part of what you just explained to us in terms of, the length of time the temporary bridge is in place. Is that issue accentuated by which choice we make, because which choice we make each?
No, it has no bearing.
Okay. So the length of time to finish 5, 6, and 7, we're agnostic. It's about the same to complete?
No.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Other than if V-Trans keep pushing it off because it costs more.
Right, that's
what I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, just again, a hypothetical.
Right. But we're not hearing an affirmative yes or no. Who knows, I guess.
I had a question looking back more at the simpler design bridge. Are there other aesthetic qualities that could be added to something like that to maybe, I don't know what they call it, but a concrete pylon as you approach on each side, or wrought iron lamps as you go across the bridge, something to add aesthetics to it that, still have that core perfectly designed bridge, but now it looks like something different.
There's several different aesthetic options that you can choose. And this picture that I'm showing here is just one sample. There's different styles of truss bridge that you can go with within reason. This was one of the styles I chose to as an example, just because it was flat along the top, similar to the existing, but there's other styles of truss that you could do. There's different coating systems you could do that could change the color, whether it's galvanized, whether it's painted to a color that you prefer. There's, for the concrete abutments, you can do concrete forms that make it look like stone form work. There's a lot of different things. You have to take into account that each of those things has a cost associated with it.
I was going back to the preferred alternative to 5. If some other items that could be added to this.
So there's definitely things we can do with the concrete abutments that, like I said, you can put formworks and make it look like stone or block or things like that. There's other types of things you can do. Like I said, everything adds cost. The formwork is fairly inexpensive when you're looking at the cost of a bridge. So there are some options. I'm not going to say that they're like significant options necessarily, but there are definitely some options to increase aesthetics.
If we could ask for either links to examples of bridges that have some of those features, or if you have stock images of them, that would be helpful.
We can definitely share some images of ideas.
Great, thank you. Karen, yeah?
Vincent Polhinus, I think, was just on there and said that there's alternative 5, there's one on the
Route 121 in Grafton that was just recently installed, this similar design as this. I don't know, I haven't been there to say what it looks like.
And Kristen Wilson also had a couple of comments, who lives out on that road. But I had a question. It was said that alternative 5 is 2 lanes wide.
Mm-hmm.
What about 6 and 7? Are they single or are they double also? And what about pedestrian and biking on all 3?
All 3 alternatives are double lanes just to meet Vermont state standards. All 3 meet those same requirements. And all 3 alternatives do not account for sidewalks for pedestrians. They don't specifically account for bicyclists. I know it was mentioned by someone that, you could potentially stripe it as 1 lane and then that way choose as a town to accommodate it that way. But from a design perspective, it's designed as 2 lanes for all 3 alternatives.
So basically it would have a large shoulder painted on there, so we could call it a 1-lane bridge, but it would still be as wide.
Okay.
But it would have a wide enough shoulder to approximate a sidewalk.
Good.
And I can, if I could share my screen, I could show a picture of the Grafton Bridge that we just completed.
That would be great. Who's seeing comments or questions? Are there comments or questions? It's in a chat? Yeah. Can you see it? Oh. All right.
Everyone.
You should be prepared, Gary.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I didn't realize I hadn't clicked the.
We could check the chat and.
So here's a picture of Grafton. So the Grafton was a 2-span bridge, had a pier in the middle. Jamaica wouldn't have a pier; it'd be single span. But it kind of gives you the idea of the railing that would be installed, or what we have shown in our typical section. These girders are galvanized or metallized, so that's why they don't look like brown, like weathering steel. And I have another image here. Vincent actually shared with me. This is taken this spring from another direction.
Yeah. Can you hold it there? Do you mind?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. That's my opinion.
Is this more similar to 5 or 6?
This is 5.
This is 5.
Yeah, and then the 6 just bridge kind of looks like a railroad crossing bridge. Maybe it's partly the color, but
I think it's the color, but yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying it looks like they had
it's like rusty metal.
Right.
Yes.
How long, when do we have to commit to one of these? The sooner the better, or?
Ideally.
Yeah.
Well, I just.
Got something to think about.
Right.
It's a lot of things.
Right. Do we have access to questions in the chat?
I just pulled them all up. I think they've all been addressed.
Oh, they have?
Yeah.
Okay. If anybody is still hoping to ask a question, can you raise your hand on Zoom? Okay. So I think we have some follow-up. Is it reasonable for us to put this on the agenda for 2 weeks from now? I'm asking
And
the
that's
V-Trans
PR,
folks,
right?
yeah, for costing.
That would be reasonable for you, Sean?
Yeah, that's fine for us.
Okay, and a few more aesthetic options for alternative 5. Just if those 2 follow-ups could happen, I will put it on the agenda for 2 weeks from now.
Can, on the aesthetics, could you kind of clarify what there's, so I'll just throw some ideas out, like you've got the guardrail there that's silver. Sometimes you can paint it brown, you can do lighting, but sometimes, nearby residents don't want the bridge lit. There's,
Right.
so just maybe you could narrow down a little bit what you're trying to go for with.
All right, so at least, and I'll just volunteer my thoughts and then anybody else can weigh in. I think lighting might be an issue, so I'm not gonna suggest that we go that direction. What do you think, Christina?
I mean, I can't see.
Okay, all right. I would hold off. It's traditionally been a true country bridge without separate
Right,
lighting.
and I guess I threw those out just top of mind,
No,
something that was saying,
I like
can
the
it
idea,
be
but
something more than just
Right.
concrete?
But anything
I don't know what
where,
that is.
right, where the railing is not concrete, where the railing has some design element to it, like what you're showing us there. And then also the impressions that can be made in the concrete to resemble stone. Any options there that you have, that would be helpful. Again, it's to take it, to move it away from the very sleek kind of ultra modern to something that has some interest to the eye and it brings you into the park. It's
Less industrial.
less industrial, a little bit more, something that your eye is drawn to instead of your eye ignores. And is that helpful? Is that, yeah.
Yeah, no, that helps, thank you.
Anybody else want to kind of contribute to that, or is that, we're in consensus on that? Okay.
There was another suggestion here now, even simple thing, I say simple, but flower boxes on the railings, we've done that in town on road bridges.
Right.
There's a lot of things that can be done that are not part of the design of the bridge.
Right, but that railing would afford the ability to easily add a flower box.
Right.
It gives you something to latch onto, so I think probably maybe any of the ones they're gonna come up with.
Just, are you if you're thinking about a concrete railing, are you thinking about one similar to the one next to the fire station, or?
I think we want to get away from a concrete railing.
Okay, I just wanted to verify.
Yeah, but the other, there's going to be several forms of concrete. If those could have texture that, give that some depth, like the stone patterns, that can have a tremendous impact. One quick question. So on this image, it looks like there's metal below the bridge that's in some kind of deteriorated state. Why is that?
I think you're seeing the shadow of the bridge and then the water on the other side of it.
Oh, that's the water?
Yeah.
Oh my God, okay, sorry. It's in it, do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, I thought that's a brand new bridge. Okay, got it. Sorry, Paul, please, you had a question?
My only thought was the difference between the concrete railings and the steel railings is in the case of a really bad flood, the concrete is going to be impermeable to the water. Any water goes over it is going to go through the steel barriers. It will not go through the concrete barrier.
It'll pass through.
And we are downhill from the bridge, the dam. So I'm thinking, of course, as obviously I think of emergencies. If it gets bad, it could take it will be a harder impediment to the flow of the water in a really bad situation with concrete.
I thought it was you want the opposite.
I want water to go through it.
Hydro engineering, you want water to be able to go through those poles instead of be blocked.
That's what I just said, if you put up a concrete.
Oh, I thought you were saying that concrete was better.
No, the concrete's gonna give you a much more
resistant,
impediment,
right,
yes. That's my own thought.
Yeah, no, I agree, actually, yeah.
I went to my house.
Right. And the bridge.
So are we thinking
Yeah,
of wrapping
my
up? Yeah, all right, well, listen, I think this has definitely put a finer point on it. And we appreciate so much the effort put into finding the third alternative. And also just the increased clarity that you're bringing to the project and its cost now. I think, hopefully, I'm optimistic that with this additional information that we've asked for, we can hone in on how, on recommendation as a select board, and then we have to talk, I think, about, I don't know, maybe we do an additional meeting where we warn it in a broader way to say to people, this is kind of the select board's making our decision at this meeting. It's a decision of the select board, it's not a town vote, but, now's the time to let us know how you feel. But I think we need the information that we're gonna get in 2 weeks in order to post that and then have the final meeting. So I guess that my target would be, early July for the select board to make the decision. I hope that that's reasonable for V-Trans.
Yep,
Okay.
make that work.
Third time's the charm. I want to thank you.
Yes.
You're
Thank you
here.
very much.
Thank you, everybody.
You're here.
I know it's like nighttime. You probably worked all day. I appreciate it.
You're here.
Yeah, started at 6 this morning.
I
Only
hear
6?
I hear you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Just kidding.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to another fun topic, the transfer station construction bid. Do you want to report on it and then we'll open it up for discussion? The one bid we got from Hunter?
Sure.
Kind of introduce it. And I think, did I tell either one of you, I had a call with Christie about it, so.
Oh, okay, no, you have not. But we did put out to bid, and in hindsight, maybe the proposal, the RFP wasn't maybe put together well enough it doesn't allow us to separate the 3 components of it. So we received one bid that was an all-inclusive for all, both the recycling area, the construction bid, reconfiguring the construction debris area, and also removing the canopies that are there, and in pretty poor shape at this point. So the one lump sum bid for all of that, including engineering work, was $120,000. So I'm sure it would be a wonderful finished product, far exceeds what we had budgeted for. And unfortunately, the way it was bid and we received bids, it doesn't really allow us to break it apart.
Right.
So
So I just net had a brief conversation with Chrissy, and I'm speaking on her, and she's not here, so I'm going to be very high level because she brought enormous expertise to it, none of which I share. I would say high level, her conclusion is that if you look at all 3 projects as they're described on the RFP, that's what it costs, it was not like although to us it was eye-popping, not to her. The vendor that Hunter references that he would work with, they actually they do the engineering, it's included in his in the scope of what his subcontractor would do. And any retaining wall over 3 feet requires engineering. So actually, the only portion of the project plan that would not out of the gate require engineering is where the recycles is, because that's like I think that's less than 3 feet. Yeah, it's about 3 feet, but let's say it's 3 feet or less. you know, that we could, you know, do differently. And, you know, it all has to get done, but we have not in fact budgeted for the two larger portions of the project. I would consider, you know, I'm happy to make a motion that we reissue an RFP just for the recycling area. Is there some interest in that, or?
I would say that, but I'd also include that removal of the canopies would be
And removal
also
of the
highly
yeah.
urgent. And I don't think I said for the record that Hunter Excavating was the bid that we received.
Yes. And thank you, Hunter, for submitting the bid. It was extremely helpful.
And he did, prior to submitting this, say that it was more than likely gonna be above what we were expecting, but
Okay.
like he always does, he proposed what was gonna be the right thing.
Right, he took the time and he gave us something of value, for sure.
So I would certainly concur with reissuing the RFP and separating it into three components. I mean, asking for three separate RFPs.
We haven't budgeted, my concern is that why would we reissue the RFP for the large project unless we say specifically it's not gonna happen until the next tax year,
Right,
I guess.
okay. Yeah.
What about, you mean like just the canopies? Break it up?
Well, the canopies, I think, would be
Fine.
two, we should issue an RFP for just the two, edible,
Right.
components.
Recycling in the area
Yeah,
and
things that we
removal
can
of
bite off
canopy.
at this point.
Right.
And I would also, I know we talked about canopy, whether repairing would make sense. I would like their opinion. I know we said that we thought, but our attendant feels strongly that it wouldn't take that much to make them.
I think the roofs are all right. I haven't looked at them, you
Yeah.
can't see them.
Yeah, it's just the way the roofs.
But they're ready to fall.
And it's the footings that would
Yeah.
be required to be changed, and that
Yeah.
would then mean a lot more work than this.
We can ask
We can ask
for both, that they
Yeah.
make give us an estimate for either removal or repair. Yeah, absolutely.
They're not doing anything.
So I'm gonna make a quick motion. I'll make a motion that we withdraw this request for proposal and instead issue a new request for proposal, which would have two separate parts. The first would be a repeat of the work that we had included in this RFP with respect to this area around recycle bins. And also include a second, part two, that would be to ask for bids to alternatively remove or repair the overhead protection over the construction bins.
And then we would wait for,
Second.
and then we
And
would
we'll
wait.
wait for the, I mean, I think we have enough information about the
Yeah.
order of magnitude, so we can budget for it.
Yeah,
But
especially when they come back.
my personal view is with pricing and tariffs, to ask someone to say, give us a bid today for work you'll do in a year,
Yeah.
it's not.
No.
That's my.
I mean, the other thing is that we deem it significant that we move forward with some alternative funding source, but I don't, in the scope of where the town is at now and with still paying back FEMA projects and whatnot,
Right.
we don't do that. I just threw that out there, that would be the only other option, that we say we need it now,
Right,
but I don't think we do.
right. Paul, did you have something you wanted to say? No. Alright. Did I have a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Just understand that it's not like eBay where you have to say the highest bidder.
Yeah, exactly.
So the canopies are gonna stay up? till next
Either
year?
one, we'll
We'll
get
get
bids
it.
for
We'll
both.
get a bid.
Repair or.
So they're to do later down the road?
No, they would be part of this RFP, reissuing two RFPs, one for the canopies right now. Or at our next meeting, we can do it quicker.
Yes, great. No. I think we can.
We'll change up.
I think we're gonna exceed 25 in total, but it's not 120. It's something that, Sarah and I talked about. I think from a purely treasury perspective, we could accommodate it in the budget and maybe dip into our fund a little bit, but maybe not for savings.
Not 95,000.
Not to the tune of 95. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Great. All right, the bike pedestrian grant application. Greg, I think you were gonna.
Yeah, so I put that back on the agenda. I've shared some information with people so we can digest it a little bit more. These studies are typically between $50,000 and $60,000. They would look at a lot of things regarding the pedestrian and traffic flow within the town and within the village. I can't recall if it was before or after the last meeting, but I had met with Colin, who's the transportation coordinator for Wyndham Regional Commission. We walked the town from Main Street here down to across the bridge into the park, up Water Street and around. I reached out to Mark Pickering at V-Trans, who's the district coordinator, and also got a summary, which I shared with everybody, for the town of Newfane, that something they had commissioned a few years ago, to show what this outcome would be. We would submit for a grant. It would be a 20% share with the town. So as an estimate of $60,000, it would be $12,000 outlay of the town. The grant applications are due on July 13th, I believe it is. It's more than likely that it wouldn't be until late this year, early next year, that we would receive even confirmation that we received a grant.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's fully within reason that it could be budgeted if that was a concern, but obviously a concern, but if that's the way we wanted to move forward. So I don't know if anybody had any other questions.
We don't have to take the
We don't
grant.
have to take the grant as a
Right.
Part of that presentation in the Newfane business showed how not to do it. Did you see that? How the striping and everything?
Oh, right. Well, there's a few things that Mark from V-Trans had said that line striping, I can't remember what it's called. They did it in town here a few years ago, and the study showed it only reduced speed by 1 to 2 miles per hour. So they don't do that anymore. We could look at reconfiguring the intersection of Depot Street and Route 30 as part of this.
As a T-stop.
As part of this design.
Yeah. that's
Again,
what
this
it
is all
like.
just design. This is scoping, this is design work, it's not
Right.
engineering work. It's not construction for sure. So after this would show where we would segments that we could address and that we want to tackle. I think with the bridge going in across the state park, there's it's a nice anchor to that road going down there. And we could pick and choose things. And also from Colin, he stated that we more likely get funding for construction projects if we have this in place. If we just said we want to go repave the road or build a sidewalk or redo the intersection, then we're in a mix with this could help elevate us out of the mix. But that's not necessarily the full reason to do it, but that's just a component.
Can I speak to some of what we were just talking about?
On the bridge or on the?
About how broke we are. So there's $12,000, and so I had a question for V-Trans, and when I went to the meeting, the Wyndham Regional Commission meeting was first time it was in person. They asked us if we could go in person, and I did. And Abe Kaufman was there from V-Trans, and I had asked Colin before, as I gave a report the last select board meeting about how broke V-Trans is and how they can't afford to do our bridges and they're gonna cut back on paving. Well, how can they afford, to get these bike grants, or this grant Greg's talking about? And Colin told me, and that was reaffirmed by Abe Kaufman from V-Trans, that the legislature probably 3 or 4 years ago thought that grants like this would be a good idea, and they were funding. So that's where that money originates from, but there's a good chance that will fizzle out. I mean, you might get the grant, but there might not be any more future monies because we just heard them, from what I heard at this other meeting, I didn't wanna like push the board about the bridge, but if we don't like do the easiest, quickest thing on some of these things, they're gonna just keep pushing us back. You should have heard Rockingham and Bells Falls talking about all their engineering costs on, you know, I mentioned that before, $250,000 and they're gonna get back. In the funding that they were supposed to be allocated, they're gonna lose it in like a month. So if we get wrapped up in, I'm not saying this, anything, get wrapped up into a big project, and if there is paving going on Route 30 or something, and we're ready to do that, there's a better chance we could do something. But we could also just fix that one sidewalk, stripe some crosswalks, Colin told me, put flashing lights in. We don't have to like do anything really extravagant, like put 2 sidewalks in a bike lane. I mean, it's a little narrow down that road as it is, but anyway, I'm just, if we throw the 12,000 at it, I'd be against just giving up the money. I know it's only 12,000, but we're just talking about, you know, trying to get our bridge in, and you know I want that green bridge. I want what we have. You know I would like a 2-lane bridge with the green, and they knew it, and look what they came back with. You know, when they first talked to us, and they were kind of going on. When they first talked to us, it made it sound like we had to take that cheapest bridge. It made it sound, it did.
Right.
It made it, and now they're not, but I guarantee from what I've been hearing, it's gonna take longer to get the other bridge. I'm getting a little off topic.
Right.
It all ties in, it all ties in though.
Right, it does. So I hear all of that very well said and understood. I'm gonna come back to, at this point, if we don't submit the application, we don't have an opportunity for a grant that could give us a plan, a roadmap, so to speak, of future improvement in downtown, with money that will not come back again necessarily.
No, it's not downtown though, it's Depot Street.
Well,
Well, it could be, I mean, we would incorporate Water Street.
right.
We would incorporate the intersection here. There are, I mean, those would be the 2 big ones. I mean, in down the road, I mean, I'm just speaking of the vision down the road, we would have a new bridge across the river. We more than likely have a new vision for what's going to be at the school. It could be housing, it could be Jamaica North, it could be, I don't know what it might be. There is a buyout that's taking place right at the head of Water Street, right by the bridge. So that would become town property, which could have pedestrian access, because there's really, you only get halfway around Water Street before you run out of pedestrian and you're walking in the road again. And it's fine, I mean, everybody can walk down the road and everybody does it. And I'm just thinking 20, 30 years down the road, what does it look like? And this is going, your word, opportunity. I mean, this is a look at what we can be doing.
Plus, as you said, we don't have to take it.
We do not have to accept the grant. When the
Right.
time comes, if it just does not make sense financially for us to spend 12,000.
So you don't have to spend the 12,000?
No, we do not.
If we could play it out, that made Colin and Wyndham Regional, that's what they do, would submit the grant for us with our, interjection of what we'd like to see. And later this fall, early next year, when it comes out, we can decline the grant. We declined a grant on Goodyville Road because it would require a huge amount of engineering, because it's a federal grant, where we could just go do the work ourselves.
Where engineering costs.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we prepare and submit the application with the assistance of Wyndham Regional Commission.
Second.
Okay. I'm not really seeing further discussion, although there'll be discussion when the time comes. So I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And you wanna say nay or you're
No.
abstaining? Nay.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
then nay from Andy.
And I will share the application, I mean, we've got the outline of the application now, but not finalized, but a draft of the application.
Right.
It's not due to the middle of July, so we have one more select board meeting to review. We're gonna review it publicly.
And JPC is participating or not?
They are aware of this, but haven't been actively pursuing.
Okay. can we just send it to Brian and
Absolutely.
let him do with it as he wishes?
Yep, yep.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Good discussion. Okay, so I have something on the pay orders, but before that, it is time to approve timesheets. So I will make a motion that we approve the timesheets submitted for the staff in the town office, the listers, highway staff, and the transfer station.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, on the pay orders, this is the one thing I wanted to add. You will see a pay order that is to substantially pay off the remaining outstanding loan that we incurred at the time of the 2023 flood. And that was, if you remember, we had two forms of borrowing. The first was a Vermont Bond Bank low-cost loan, and the second was an M&T, so-called commercial lines loan, or commercial loan at municipal rates, so still advantageous vis-a-vis, private, commercial borrowers, but still higher than Vermont Bond Bank. That commercial line of credit expires at the end of this month. Now, M&T, of course, would give us opportunities to price it. I did ask Sarah to include payment of most of it, really. 640 of the 825. The difference being 120,000, which is roughly the town's portion that we are going to have to pay that FEMA did not cover. Just because we wanted to make this, 180, not 120, excuse me, 180. Just because I was just being cautious, basically, but we're gonna pay that down, because no matter what, we've already received the funds, or we will receive them imminently, so it does not make sense for the town to be paying an interest carrying cost on something that we already have the cash for. And, Sarah took a look at our cash flow, our funds available. We only have 3 months left of the tax year, of the calendar year, before we get taxes again. So the tax year ends July 1, but we will receive, we have our mismatch in cash flow needs and meetings and how it gets met. So unlikely, after Sarah, I let her spend a little bit more time looking at the numbers, since I came to her sort of last minute on it. At the next meeting, we're likely to recommend that we pay off the remainder rather than carry the debt. I'll come back. The 180, yeah. But Sarah's gonna crunch the numbers again a little bit and make sure that we have plenty of comfort to carry our operational costs through the next tax collection period.
But maybe a question for the treasurer, but we did get reimbursed for the mitigation from our sheets down
Yes.
to.
Yes, all of that, all of that.
580 or
Thanks,
whatever.
Mike.
Yep.
Yes.
So there's three things right now.
It was Greg that brought
Excuse
that
me.
up.
Okay.
What was that?
There's 3 projects right now from FEMA that have more than likely will be obligated in the next couple of days. They've been signed off on finally. One of them was just kind of repairing or fixing in the system, some temporary work on Goodville Road, it's $58,000. And then there was another project on West Hill Road, approximately $24,000. So those 2 will be funded fairly quickly, just as
Right.
quickly as it goes.
90% also?
90%.
Okay.
Yep, those are both for the July storm. The one project that's not been funded yet and has not been done yet is the wing wall on the bridge on Goodville Road. So we haven't paid for that yet, so we're still trying to keep those on an equal track.
Right.
Keep the project moving ahead at the same pace that the money might be moving.
Okay.
That bridge.
I know, it's always the last thing to be done.
Well, that.
It was the last of the feet, and it was Irene, and it's the last one of this.
Irene.
Right, exactly. So the folks on Goodville are happy to hear that. So that was all I needed to bring out, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the pay orders as issued. Second. Thank you. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And then I do have one public concerns item. I'm just gonna talk about Jamaica Village School. And just to update the board and whoever's listening. We've had a little back and forth, I have had a little back and forth that I've shared with some of the board or all, I can't even remember anymore. Following our last meeting to see if we could be put on, if the town of Jamaica's viewpoint and request to have an opportunity to vote on the future of the school and that property. The first answer was no, then we were somehow put on the agenda for tonight, even after I said, but without a decision that would be taken and without really any time to kind of have a true discussion. So I had asked us to be put on the agenda in the middle of July. And the most recent communication from Drew Hazelton was it'll be late fall, like in budgeting season. And so I think the dialogue continues, let's put it that way. I don't think we wanna wait until late fall. I think developments in the legislature are happening real time for those who are following it. And so I just wanted to let you know, I have slight frustration. I understand the school board's dealing with a lot and it's a huge amount of change. But I think we're missing some critical information. The budget, the West River Unified Education District's budget included $150,000 for just regular maintenance of Jamaica Village School, which strikes many of us as, it gives us a question mark as to what is that composed of. And I asked for that information, it has not yet come. So I'm gonna keep working on that, just so that we have a better understanding of, we wouldn't necessarily agree with that number, but at least if we understand what it's comprised of, it would inform us,
So were you on their agenda tonight?
Technically, not me per se, not us per se, but a discussion of Jamaica Village School remained on the agenda. I assume they skipped over it, since no one's there to talk to it.
They did skip over it.
They did, yeah. I mean, it just, it was a little perplexing how this kind of came about, but, I'm not privy to the inner workings, be they Byzantine or not, of the education district and that board. But I'll just keep working on it and I'll come back to you in 2 weeks to see what progress has been made. Did you want to add to anything?
No, I think you covered it nicely.
Okay. That was the one thing I wanted to raise in public concerns. So.
Did you want to?
Oh, Sarah Banks?
I have a public concern from a resident.
Okay.
This is from Andy Avery, and he asked me to read it during the meeting.
Right.
He said, "This is for the select board. I was hoping to make it to the meeting, but I can't make it this week. A number of years ago, we got several grants and raised some money to restore the town hall. Redoing the slate roof was major. It is one of the real focal points of Jamaica. I spoke with Karen a couple days ago and she said there are plans for painting it, but one big concern are the 2 large maple trees out front. I noticed that some of the branches have grown so long that they're actually hitting the building and that is never a good thing. I would like to suggest looking into having those 2 trees trimmed back quite a bit and even taking off most of the lower limbs so the building can be seen from the street and really be a focal point for the town. I would be happy to donate to help with the tree trimming if that is acceptable. At the very least, the branches should be cut back so they don't hit the roof or the sides. Thanks."
So, do we do any trimming? I thought we do some trimming, don't we?
We wouldn't be in that league, so to speak, to do that.
Because they're so high, the trees are so high.
Yeah.
I just had some down at my house. Can I drop the name of who did it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna recommend, that we get
Do an RFP.
a professional in there to look at, not just doing it, but recommending what to do.
So we have 3 big maples. We have, the guy said, the 3rd biggest ash tree, or 2nd biggest he's ever seen in southern Vermont.
Ash, wow.
Yeah, and he trimmed it, and he was careful not to trim it too much because Jamaica has the ash borer in town. But also, we had a maple that we didn't know was sick, and he trimmed it, pruned it, did everything else. It's like we got a new yard, and I think he might be someone to look at big, beautiful trees like that, a professional, or someone like him, and was very reasonable too. It was four winds.
What, 4 Winds?
Four Winds
Yeah.
Tree Company or something like that. So just a thought, I mean, I'm glad someone pointed that out about.
Yeah.
But we just had it done last week.
Do you want to do an RFP?
I think we should, I will take that on. I mean, I think we should do an RFP. It's gonna be beyond anything that we can do internally.
Okay.
To do it right.
Right.
This all
And those trees are beautiful, but maybe they're not the right thing right there, right now. They are constricting and damaging the building.
Right, okay, perfect.
I agree.
So, maybe at the next meeting,
Yeah.
approve an RFP. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you, I like giving Greg assignments.
Thank you.
Because they get
Karen
done.
and
And they're always
Andy.
good.
Yeah, well, we were
Yes.
looking at it the other day,
Yeah.
yesterday.
It's great to see big healthy trees, but they're getting to be too big.
Man, they get,
I wonder if we should even
Past 10
replace them with
years.
something else. I mean, they're gorgeous, but
I was about ready to say it, that's why I'm thinking we should put the RFP out there to
Right.
get what to do and to do. And
Yes.
not just say, come trim them, we want to say,
Right.
what should we do with these trees? And let their opinions,
yeah, they need love.
yeah.
No, the guys that do that, or
Yeah.
well, those trees are going to start disrupting the sidewalk here pretty soon.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Will you tell them we said thank you and have a look in the minutes and see what we have? Karen, please.
So I have a couple of things. I won't do quite as many as last time. But again, Jamaica Day, Saturday, August 16th. Sidewalk socials on Wednesdays, meeting in front of the Jamaica House and Peacock Outfitters,
That's okay, I'm getting lots of words.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Are you hearing things?
Yes,
Nice.
yes, people love it, yeah.
I just received a message from a couple of people on Henderson Road complaining about speeding on Henderson Road. And there's, so if our sheriff department could pay a little attention to that. And I've certainly been noticing the sheriff's department has been around a lot.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But if you could steer them down that way a little bit, maybe after school, although now we're getting into summer vacation, but just to keep an eye on that.
Okay.
And the other thing is, we talked about it last time, We Are Stronger Together, which is join your neighbors at the Jamaica Town Hall, come together and build community and power. And this Saturday, June 14th at 9 o'clock, it was going to be 2 o'clock. It's now 9 o'clock.
Okay, I can go.
And our United States Representative Becca Ballant is going to be there at 9:30. So we're excited about
We have a
that.
celebrity.
We do, and she's there until 10:30.
Is there a flyer?
We just came out with a flyer. I can email it to you right now.
Right,
It just
and
came.
would you, and you'll do all your Facebook magic.
Right, we just finalized it today, and
Fantastic.
we're working on Bernie. We'll see if we can get Bernie to come for a square dance, so. Anyway, we've got a lot of things that we're working on.
Fantastic.
So just about the sheriff's department, those
Yes.
people complaining about speed, tell them to call the sheriff's department.
Okay.
They're under
I will. I'll
contract.
let them all know.
Yeah, and then we get a STARS report, and I'm sure if I look in the report, Sarah gets it, I get it. It tells what they've been doing, and they're on Henderson Road, in the report.
Right.
Okay.
And the more information they have.
They get around,
What's
yeah.
going on.
Okay.
I'm just like the liaison, like if the board wants the sheriff, or we wanna ask them something, or set some speed belts up or whatever. It's not my job to field complaints to the sheriff's department, or the select boards, if you ask me, really. I mean, we got them under contract to call Not that we don't appreciate you telling us, but.
These are dirt bikes, four-wheelers,
Yeah,
and side by
well,
sides.
I'm sure they'd love to have a little talk with them.
Mm.
They would me if I was riding them.
So, anything else?
Whatever.
No?
That'll be it for
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?